Good morning, Bitcoin. It's still Sunday, October 8th, and we're still at Paralelní Polis at the Hacker Congress in Prague, Czech Republic. And we're joined by Chris from Bisq, or BitSquare, the decentralized Bitcoin exchange. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, hi, good. Yeah, so it's called Bisq these days. It used to be called BitSquare. People might be familiar with either name. Yeah, so what can I tell you about
I
it?
hear you made a speech at this Hacker Congress. How'd that go? What was your speech about?
I did. I gave a talk yesterday on a bit about what Bisq is, right? So it's a decentralized exchange or a peer-to-peer.
Is it close to your mouth?
Yeah, thanks. It's a peer-to-peer Bitcoin exchange, right? But specifically, it's a Bitcoin, a crypto fiat exchange. It really specializes in trading fiat. We do crypto as well. Because that's essentially easy once you've solved the hard problem of crypto fiat, right? So I gave a talk.
So how do you solve the hard problem of crypto fiat? Because I know a lot of people are using USD Tether right now, and that's a time bomb. And a lot of people, they just hold it in some kind of account that I don't understand. I know BTC-E used to offer crypto fiat, but I have no idea how they did it, and I don't think anyone else did either. So how do you guys solve that problem?
So there's no magic, right? We just deal with the hard problem as a hard problem, which is Bisq is a few things, right? It's a desktop application, cross-platform. It's a protocol, right? And it's a peer-to-peer network, but the protocol is what orchestrates, what coordinates the fiat transfer, right? So, people open up Bisq, they look, they see, hey, here's a trade that I'd like to take. I want to buy, they're selling, right? They take that trade, and then, they're already agreeing on how they're going to settle that payment in fiat, right? So it's going to be a bank transfer, or OKPay, or Zelle, or something like that, or a SEPA transfer in Europe.
Okay.
The protocol and the application work together to orchestrate the process of sending that money out of band, right, through the bank. So the buyer is going to initiate payments, send it to the seller.
So your
and they're gonna click
application
a button,
actually
right?
sends the money through Swift or whatever system it is.
That's the thing, right? We're actually completely hands off from the process, other than orchestrating. Okay, buyer, go send money from your bank account or with OKPay or whatever it is to this address or this IBAN or whatever the payment method is, and then click this button in Bisq that says, I sent the payment, right? Now the seller over there with his Bisq client sees waiting for payment. Click this button when the payment shows up in your bank account, right? So really no magic. And when that button gets pressed by the seller, then a multi-sig, 2 of 3 multi-sig transaction that's holding the Bitcoin being traded and holding security deposits from both traders. Then Bisq orchestrates both keys coming together, buyer and seller keys, to sign that multi-sig transaction, send the Bitcoin being traded to me, to the buyer, right? And send the security deposits back to both sides.
Okay, so is it possible for me to cancel or reverse my bank transaction?
So it depends on the bank, right? And it depends on the payment method. So for example, PayPal is not one of the supported payment methods in Bisq because it's way too easy to reverse a payment.
Absolutely, everyone's had that happen to them. I know I sold some Bitcoin through PayPal on eBay years ago. Then the guy either was hacked or said he was hacked, and PayPal believed him, took my money, and they have my Bitcoin. Terrible deal for me on both ends.
Exactly. There's a wiki page on the Bitcoin wiki that goes through a hardness scale of money transfer systems, right? Payment systems. And so we're only supporting things that are high on that hardness scale, right? Like proven, known. It's very, very difficult to reverse a payment. Like you'd have to prove that something fraudulent happened to reverse a payment. So that's the only stuff we support. And we've had 0 incidents with that, right?
So basically I would get like a confirmation number or something, I would enter that into the software, that would go to the other person, they'd look at their bank account, they would have the money.
Exactly. Every Bisq trade has a trade ID, 6-8 letters that are randomly generated, and that's what has to go in the payment details, right? And both sides, buyer and seller, are getting just enough information, right? This is all happening over Tor, right? It's a bespoke peer-to-peer protocol on top of Tor. Every Bisq client is a Tor hidden service.
Okay, so I'm running an application on my home computer similar to like BitTorrent. It's using a network like BitTorrent, but it's using it through Tor, so it's secure.
Yeah. It's actually a network much more like Bitcoin itself. So it's a flood-fill gossip protocol where every node gets every trade, right? So everybody has a copy of the order book, right? So it's a distributed order book, and then Bisq is really just serving to match buyers and sellers manually, right? No automatic order matching. We're not splitting up orders or doing anything sophisticated. It's just, hey, there's a trade that I'd like to take, or I'd like to, make an offer to sell or to buy myself. And then when people take each other's order, it's truly peer-to-peer, right? They're only talking, directly to one another, just right to their Onion address, right? It's a hidden service. That message is encrypted. It's already on top of Tor, but that message is encrypted as well to your counterparty's, Onion, Tor public key, right?
Okay.
And it's containing just enough information to initiate that payment and to verify that it's coming from the person that you expected. So depending on the payment method, right, if it's a SEPA transfer, it's going to have the IBAN and probably the person's name, because that's what SEPA requires.
So it actually sends their name. So how anonymous is this version? If I'm going to buy $100 of Bitcoin, maybe use it for some questionable purchase, is this the place to buy it, or is this more savings for just normal people?
So I think, I think it's pretty safe to say that we have the most secure. So let me just say a bit about the mission of the project, right? The mission of Bisq is to provide a secure, private, censorship-resistant way of, exchanging Bitcoin cryptocurrencies for fiat currencies over the internet, right?
Okay.
So you could do all those things like in person, what have you.
Sure.
This is over the internet. On the privacy side, right? Like, we define privacy, I think, like it should be defined. It's your ability to control access to your data, right? So the nature of this kind of trade is you're interfacing with this legacy system that has to know, bank accounts and sometimes names.
Sure.
So exactly that much information, and you choose, okay, I'm taking that trade over there, right? You don't know anything, people's personal information is not broadcast with these trades. You're anonymous on the exchange.
Sure.
Until that moment that you need to expose just enough information just to your counterparty.
To verify.
Right? So you control who's getting access to that.
So the counterparty knows the money's been sent, maybe not necessarily where it's from, but he can verify that. He can look at his own account.
Yes.
And he'd be all set. So is this for people getting their first Bitcoins or people getting later Bitcoins? How do you see this in the Bitcoin ecosystem?
Yeah, well, I mean, to compare it to when would people use centralized exchanges, right? If you're like a heavy trader and so on, day trading Bitcoin or what have you, you wouldn't use Bisq for that. Right? Settlement is far slower.
Sure.
Volume is lower, but it's far more secure, far more private, far more censorship resistant than any centralized exchange by its very nature. Right? Like they just can't compete on that level. So to answer your question, it's really the core, the purpose of this is to provide a rock solid on-ramp and off-ramp from crypto, right? Into crypto from fiat, both ways, right? There has to be, at least one service that's out there that people can really rely on.
So how would this compare with Coinbase? Coinbase is centralized, this is decentralized. Are you storing less data? Are you storing data for a shorter amount of time?
Yeah, so we don't, we're the developers, right? I'm a developer of Bisq. We run no centrally controlled servers. There are no databases. We record no data. We couldn't even if we tried, right? The protocol is just designed so that it's impossible for us to know.
So the government knocks on your door. Where are the server logs? There are no server logs.
Yeah, everybody has a Bisq.log file on their own node, right? So go collect it from everybody who ever used Bisq, right? That's the answer.
And if they deleted it, it's gone.
Exactly.
Or if the dog ate it, also
That's
gone.
right. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
It could be rough. So where is it open source right now, or how did you become a Bisq developer?
Yeah, so I've been involved in the project since pretty close to its inception in 2014. There was a long development period. It took 2 years to develop this. Building from scratch the peer-to-peer network, finally figuring out how we could ride on Tor, and we went live 18 months ago, April of 2016. So we've been in production for 18 months, thousands of trades worth millions of dollars. No major incidents, no downtime,
and no information stored.
And no
thousands of trades gone. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our users would be interested in that. Where can they check out Bisq? Where can they learn more?
So Bisq.network is the homepage, and you can get downloads from there and so on. There's our GitHub repository, Bisq-network on GitHub.
Do you have a Mac, PC, Linux versions?
Yeah,
Where are you on that?
It's all built in Java, right?
So great.
So it's just cross-platform by default. And if we have a minute more, I'll talk about.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Just if we could have more people going in and out the door, that would be completely not distracting to me at all. But I'm really focused, so let's go ahead and tell us more,
Yeah,
man.
cool. So actually, the title of the talk that I gave yesterday was "How to Bootstrap a DAO." Right, and so people probably know watching this, DAO is decentralized autonomous organization.
Used to be a great word before they ruined it. Maybe we can bring it back.
That's right. We're reclaiming the name here
Okay, let's
with
go for
Bisq
that.
at the very least. And so actually, just yesterday, we officially launched this DAO. It's been in the works and in the planning for about a year now, even more. Carefully designed token model. So we introduced a token called BSQ into the Bisq ecosystem, right? And the purpose of the Bisq DAO is to decentralize the funding and governance of the project. The technology, right? The application, the peer-to-peer network, the protocol, that's all properly decentralized, even fully distributed, right? So distributed network. But the funding, right, and the governance, like, we're making all the decisions right now. You know,
Sure.
Manfred, the founder, and me and just a few other people are making a decision. That's a big risk for a project like that.
Yeah,
Right?
you could roll back the chain like the DAO.
Yeah, you know, we could do all kinds of bad things. We probably won't, but the point is that, you know, that's just a vulnerability in the system if there's only a couple of people, right, who know how it all works and make all the decisions. So we want to decentralize that responsibility. And today, the way that Bisq works is that people pay trading fees in Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right, and those trading fees, both maker and taker of an offer pay a small amount of Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin gets paid directly to arbitrators on the system. So if you remember, I said it's a 2 of 3 multi-sig escrow that we put the Bitcoin being traded in and the security deposits. The third key there is an arbitrator's key, right? I'm also an arbitrator on the
So
system.
if something goes wrong, the arbitrator could step in.
Exactly. If there's a bug or there's, you know, it's virtually always just a misunderstanding or some sort of human protocol violation.
Sure.
People can open a ticket, open
You
a
sent
dispute.
10, you meant to send 100, something went
Yeah,
wrong.
or the fiat side gets messed up somehow, and then we just, you know, listen to both sides and, you know, get screenshots if we need to, whatever it is. It always works out. We just really have no bad actors in the system, which I don't think is because everybody's so good-hearted, but I think that actually the system of incentives and disincentives that we've designed actually work, right? And so with the DAO, what we do is we introduce this token that has a few utilities in the system. And the first one is paying those trading fees, right? So people can now pay trading fees, or will be able to pay trading fees when we flip this switch on, right, in BSQ. So that's the first functionality, and they pay it at a steeply discounted rate compared to Bitcoin.
Sure.
So that gives traders an incentive to acquire BSQ in the first place, which of course they can buy on the exchange, right? The second thing is compensation. So we want to, again, decentralize the responsibility and, you know, scale up the network of developers working on this. So the second utility is compensation. People can fix bugs, write documentation, whatever it may be, give a talk, and then they're eligible to submit what we call a compensation request, right? Which is, you know, just stuff that we're doing over GitHub right now. It'll eventually be all kind of on-chain, all based on Bitcoin transactions.
Okay.
But in the meantime, so imagine, you know, you just fixed a bug for us or whatever.
Sure.
And you issue a compensation request, okay? That's the second, you know, utility is you want to get compensated. You want to get paid in BSQ. So the third utility is voting. Right?
Okay.
So all the stakeholders, all the people who have BSQ vote on those compensation requests every month.
Right.
Right? And another utility is, of course, trading itself, right? Like I mentioned, you can trade BSQ for US dollars or whatever.
Right.
That's important for contributors that they need to pay their bills.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the last utility is bonding, right? So for high trust functions in the system, like, you know, somebody's running our you know, DNS or running our Twitter handle, like they can make a mess of something. Okay, they have to put up a BSQ bond, and they can earn interest on that bond, but that bond can be confiscated, right?
All right.
So the point is you've got this multifaceted token. It's a colored coin on top of Bitcoin. This is not an ICO. This is not a crowdfunding event. We actually aren't looking for, you know, a whole bunch. The price of BSQ doesn't matter to us so much. What matters is the ability to spread out the work, right? And so that's the whole design of it. I put up my slides yesterday, so people can find that at CBeams on Twitter. There's a link to slides, and you can walk through the whole thing. All my speaker notes are there. People can check it out. And if you like what you see, stay tuned because we're over the next days and weeks we'll be putting out a lot of bounties, right? Just like GitHub issues labeled bounty. That'll be really well-defined units of work. You can pick it up, indicate that you want to work on it permissionlessly. You don't have to ask us, right? Issue a pull request when you've got something put together, and then submit a compensation request, right? And start participating in the DAO. It's a testing phase right now. So we actually issue this BSQ on testnet. That's what we did yesterday.
Right, great.
And we prohibit trading right now. So you can't buy it, you can't sell it, and you can't trade it.
Excellent.
You can only earn it, right? You can earn it, you can vote with it, and you can use it for this bonding. And in that way, we create this kind of ability for ourselves to take a conservative, iterative approach to like making sure that this thing works. And in the meantime, only working with people who hold BSQ because they earned it. It's a meritocracy, right? How we generated BSQ in the first place is that people have donated Bitcoin to the project over time, about 25 Bitcoin since the project's inception. So we take that 25 Bitcoin, like I said, it's a colored coin. So we cut that up at the rate of 1,000 Satoshis per BSQ. And just if you do the math, 25 Bitcoins turns into 2.5 million BSQ.
Sure.
That's the initial stake. And we distribute that to all of the past contributors, right? So we put out a poll, a questionnaire, a form, right? A couple months ago, asking all of the past contributors.
Code contributors or money contributors?
Really, anybody who added value to the project. We cast a wide net for that. And we said, look, if you've done more than 4 hours worth of work in any way improving the Bisq network, fill out this form, generate a BSQ address, and when we do the distribution, we'll compensate you sort of according to the value that you added, right? So it's really a pure meritocracy, and we want to keep it that way, and that's why we actually prohibit trading of the token until we're ready to go live on Bitcoin mainnet. But in the meantime, the BSQ that people are earning is being recorded on testnet, and will reflect that in the mainnet distribution when we actually do it, right?
Nice.
So you can think of it as a kind of equity vehicle, right? Almost like an employee stock option right now that you can't trade until the company goes public or what have you.
Sure, yeah, you want to keep it locked down.
That's sort of the model, right?
So that's great. So you actually created a utility token that has utility, not necessarily an ICO where someday it'll be useful.
Right, yeah, this should be pretty useful from day one.
Well, that's great, and people can check it out at bisq.network.
That's right, yeah.
All right, thanks so much, Chris, for being on the show.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome our next guest. We got Felix here, the Bitcoin Traveler. Let's go for Felix. We'll do like 5 minutes with Felix, then we'll do your thing.
Just go speak.
Okay.
Just 5 minutes.
We'll do 5 minutes. Come on. All right.
5 minutes. We only have like 15.
Felix,
Thomas,
you traveled the world on Bitcoin, and now you ended up on this red couch. How did that happen?
I made it on the backdoor casting couch, finally.
Finally.
So my background is I'm a programmer. I discovered Bitcoin a couple years ago now, and then in 2015, after Bitcoin has been in decline for I think the whole year of 2014.
After the fall, yes.
After the fall, everybody was telling me Bitcoin is dead, nobody uses Bitcoin, it's a failed experiment.
Sure.
But I knew that wasn't true because I was using it at least like once a week in Berlin for paying my burgers at room 77.
Yeah.
You've been there?
Not yet. I tried. I was around the corner at Fabelhaft.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It was closed on Monday.
Oh, you went with Anna, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, there's a couple bars and restaurants in Berlin that take Bitcoin now. So I was using it, and I thought like if this wants to be like a global currency, it should be possible to like a global traveling, right? So maybe make this whole digital nomad thing a real thing without relying on banks, credit cards, or anything.
So you traveled the world spending only Bitcoin. Where did you go?
The original idea was 365 days from Berlin to Berlin.
Wow.
And 21 countries.
Okay.
For obvious reasons, 21. Eventually, I was a little bit slower. So I was only at country number 17 on my anniversary. That was actually on Yap Island.
Yeah.
The island in the Pacific where they have the rice stones. Like some people will know that. Like it's the biggest money in the world.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it's actually
hard to carry around, yeah.
very hard to carry around. That's why they just like have their own blockchain where they just like put it on the island and then they remember who owns what.
That's a permanent blockchain. That's locked in stone.
What UTXO is belong to which person in the island, and they just move it like in their minds, and so if there's a dispute, then but the coins don't move actually, like they don't move physically.
So you made it around the world. You managed to spend only Bitcoin,
Yes.
following several rules. What are you working on now? What's coming next for Felix, the Bitcoin traveler?
Yes, I'm right now in Hong Kong. I came all the way here from Hong Kong just for this
That's a
conference. I
haul.
love this
That's a
conference.
haul, man.
Because it's really great. I can recommend anybody to come here next year, and because it's really a blast here. All the cool people here, and I love talking to them. The talks are great, and also talking on at the party with all the people is really amazing. I'm working on also did a lightning talk on something called dormant coins. It's just a hobby project where I'm analyzing the UTXO set and look at like how active are coins being used, and like so they're dormant. Let's say if you use a Bitcoin, if you transfer Bitcoin to a paper wallet and you don't use it for like 3 years, I consider that a dormant coin. So because it's not moving on the blockchain, it still exists, but it's not moving.
Right.
And I'm doing analysis on different blockchains and how active these coins are used, because you can easily fake traffic or create fake transactions as much as you want.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean anything. Like Bcash created like 8 megabyte blocks for couples.
It's the same money moving in and
It's
out.
the same money moving in and out. So finding better metrics to measure actual usage of blockchains, like on-chain transactions, that's what I've been working on. But it's just a hobby project. Nobody
All right,
pays me for
and
it.
where can people learn more about that and your travels?
I think you can follow me on Twitter if you like, at Felix Weiss, and I have a GitHub repo where I sometimes publish open source stuff. All these scripts where I generate these statistics, they will all be open source. Hopefully, when I finish this, hopefully before the end of the year, and hopefully we'll write a blog post about it.
All right. Well, thanks so much,
Thank you
Felix,
so much
for
for
being on the
having
show.
me. Take care.
Sorry we had to be so quick. Our next guest has to speak before she goes on stage. And now there's an empty couch.
No,
We've
we're
got
getting there.
Tone Vase.
Hey guys, I'm back.
And we have a rarity at a Bitcoin convention. It's a girl. How's it going? What's your name and what do you do?
My name's Alexa, and I've been recently calling myself a general sexuality influencer since I do so many things.
All right, I'm not even going to look at the chat and see what they say. Make sure you hold the microphone
I do so
close,
many things.
close to your mouth.
Because we have to compete
and
with
talk
mics.
nice and loud because I'm probably
Gotcha.
going to out-talk you.
Gotcha.
So, you're a general sex therapist now, and you're focusing on geek issues?
Well, I don't know about geek issues. Granted, I might help a few geeks out being at the
You're
conference.
speaking to our audience.
Yeah, so I got invited to the conference because I'm really good friends with one of the co-founders of the Institute, and we had a lot of conversations about, I guess you could call it sexuality anarchy or sex anarchy, relationship anarchy. It's like, how do you basically fuck the system in these areas?
Literally
And-
or figuratively?
all the kinds of ways. So we had a lot of conversations. He said, you know what, I really would like to invite you to speak at the Congress and bring sex to all the nerds. And I said, absolutely.
Sounds like a lot of work, though.
I'm down for the challenge. It's been an interesting few days. I will say that. But it's great, right? Everybody, you're either thinking about it or you're doing it or you wish you were doing it. Like you got here because of it. Like sex is a part of all of our lives.
Sure.
So I just talk about it a lot.
All right, Tone's going to ask you questions now.
Okay.
And so you've recently started speaking about this publicly to a larger group of people, as opposed to working one-on-one or in small group consulting. So how do you compare and contrast the two? What do you really want to do with?
I love this
with it?
question. I love this question. So when I originally started doing what I do, it was through a blog, and I wasn't really ready. I'm from the deep south in Louisiana, and
I can
this
tell
is
by your
not-
accent. It's
Can you
incredibly
hear
strong.
me? Lies.
Yes.
Oh, just every now and then you'll hear y'all come out, but so I was kind of hiding behind my blog, and then eventually it got so much attention that I stopped doing that, and and so I'm out, everyone. But basically, I kind of got this community of people that started to follow and kind of hang on everything that I said and did, and it was after that that things progressed to where everything that I do now is community based. That's what I want. I want people to start talking about the things that they should be talking about, that they want to talk about, that they have lots of questions about, but they feel that they can't. I want to give an environment for people to be able to talk about sex in a non-sexual way so they actually feel heard and seen and get their questions answered.
Okay, so what's the number one issue that we should be talking about that we're not talking about?
Well, That's a hard question.
Well,
As far as sex goes?
It might be a similar question to what I was going to ask, because we mentioned it earlier, and I would love to know the answer. You mentioned that the government is oppressing people in their sexuality. I would love to hear more about that.
Oh yeah. I go off on a tangent every now and then, but yeah, sexually repressed people are not sane individuals, and the laws regarding sex, sexuality, and sex expression, that makes us all very angry. It prevents us from being the best versions of ourselves. So no matter what, so this is where it transcends as far as the geek world. And well, I had a shirt on yesterday that said sex geek. So when certain conferences, I don't feel, it's geeky as well, But basically, if this is where it'll transcend, is that people who do this as their world, this is what they do. If you're not expressing yourself sexually, then how successful are you? How clear is your mind? How far can you really go if you're not expressing, and especially if you're not doing it? So please get from behind your computer and go do it.
Well, we are at a convention mainly filled with men, so I'm not sure how doing it would work out. But what should they do? They're repressed. They're behind their computer. They're in IRC. They're typing desperately horrible things in our chat that I can't even look at. What should they do? Obviously, stop the horrible typing. But
what's the best advice you can give for someone that doesn't have the confidence to approach, women that they don't know or they're uncomfortable? We're not talking about like non-alpha men. What's the best advice you can give them?
I love how you just generalized everybody. It's just
throwing the whole audience under the bus.
Yes, all of them.
I'm sure if you.
We do have some females in our audience.
Everybody's
actually.
an alpha depending on the company, right? So I'm not an alpha. Well, I guess I'm kind of an alpha in this company, but you know what I mean. So I would say get really clear on what you actually want, what you actually desire, and acknowledge your sex to begin with. Make it a priority. It should be a priority, and healthy communication about it, healthy expression of it. That's going to make you allow for you to have a general better life, I should say. So get really clear on what you want. That's kind of hard. Puns are always intended with me. Puns are always intended. But
I wasn't going to say anything. Don't look at me.
Yeah, when people work with me, it's like I have to work with them to figure out what they really want to begin with. So that's a general exploration kind of process. So working with me one-on-one is usually, it involves a bit of meditation. I ask lots of questions about what you might be into, what you think you could want, and then navigate that mentally so that you have an idea of the plan of action. You can put basically a plan of action together so that when you go out into the world where there's people that you might want to do it with, then you know how to communicate, and you know how to not be creepy, and you know how consent operates in actuality versus,
Fantasy.
I suppose.
We know a lot about consensus.
We do. We have a lot of consensus protocols. And
Yeah.
I recently started reading a book called How Not to Marry the Wrong Person. And just in the beginning of the book, it's by the School of Life, so I have to speak in their British accent. But they say, many of us want someone to meet who's fun and fun to be with. But what do these things mean? What we really need is to find a weirdo who complements us. Someone who's just as strange as we are, because everyone in the world is a weirdo. Would you agree with that advice from the School of Life?
100%. It's from the School of Life. It's called the School of Life.
They're
Deb.
pretty serious about their work.
Yes.
They had a coffee shop. I had to buy all their books, despite my no book buying in Europe policy, which I failed
I
horribly
always
at.
fail. Is that because of luggage?
Yes,
Traveling?
it's so heavy. I already left
I'm
them
the
on a
same way.
shelf in Amsterdam, but I'm going back soon to get my books. I have a library in Europe now.
Yeah, I said that. So many people think that they have to be a certain way. They have to be this particular version of themselves. That way another person will want to be with them or want to sleep with them or want to have them around. But the truth of the matter is that you can only put up that facade for so long before it completely crumbles. And then that person is like, or they wind up having something come out of their mouth like, I hate Star Wars, or whatever, and then all of a
You'd have
sudden
to
your
leave.
life is crumbling down.
We can get another guest in here.
If you,
Doesn't hate Star
no,
Wars.
I'm saying not me, not I, but
Okay,
you know
okay,
what I mean.
just
Like
stay.
you tried to put that on, like I'm not geeky, or I'm not this, or I'm not that.
And it makes you
so
nervous,
that-
right? You're constantly keeping up this
Yes,
facade.
you
What if
can't do
what if she
it.
finds
You can't
out
do it.
hiding the action figures?
Yeah, absolutely. So I say the same thing with your sexuality as well. Like for me, I'm in a conversation which I have no idea what comments are going to happen after I say all this. But
They're horrible already.
Oh no, it's not that bad. Yeah, we're
It's just a
perfectly
nightmare.
But you
Some of
have
these
to-
words you can't say on TV. No, not that one either.
but you have to state your weirdness very early on, and when it comes to your sexual preferences, I'd say get into those kind of quickly too, because you don't want to freak someone the fuck out later, and you also don't want to wind up finding someone who will actually get naked with you, and then you're stuck only doing it one kind of way because you're afraid, or you never expressed it from the beginning. So you have to be.
I do see Peter
open.
Todd raising his hands. No robot sex dolls. Don't mention the robots. Okay, sorry. You needed to know.
I kind
Oh,
of
that's
like the
actually a
robot
good
sex
topic.
dolls.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that topic. What's your view on? It's coming very soon.
Literally. Puns
Yeah.
are always
Another pun. And in especially out of Japan.
Yeah, they're
and
burying them.
They're becoming very lifelike, and we're probably about 5 years away.
If
from,
they say yes, you know.
No,
Yeah.
you can buy them now. They're between $6,000 and $8,000 US.
Convert that into Bitcoin. Do your own math at home.
So that's why I threw out the US dollar, because I don't know. You know, you
Oh,
can pay an extra
1
$300
1/4
for
maybe.
freckles.
what's your view on that?
What's my opinion?
Yeah.
I like it. I like
That's not
it.
what we expected
I
from a
like
woman
it.
who might be
From a-
replaced. What
No,
if there are no
but will I
more?
really be replaced? I think I will do what I need to do in order to not be replaced. If you want to fuck a doll. When you want human sex, then you have human sex. That is for lack of connection. This is for connection. So it has its own spot in this conversation on its own.
Do you think it would be therapeutic, or is it more of a lifestyle?
Probably both. For some people, it will be a lifestyle, and for some people, it would be therapeutic. I mean, at this point, like sexual surrogacy, there's people that physically can't have sex. Like, I mean, in the same way that I might have it with
Not
somebody
Peter.
else.
Don't
you know?
say that.
Well, I think, I'm sure that you understand what I'm saying. It's like, what is their outlet then? Everyone deserves to have an outlet. You know, we are these genius creatures now putting these things together, so it's,
So I'm already thinking a little bit further ahead. Would it be considered cheating on your mate if you were doing it with a robot?
that is all. So when you ask me about government suppression and all of those things, that I think of those things too. You know, you can lose your family and everything if there's like an infidelity in certain states. Or it's like your entire family can be taken away from you if you express your sexuality in that regard that's outside of your marriage or whatever. So I think about whatever your morals and ethics were when you were growing up, right? I grew up in the deep south in Louisiana, Catholic. So everything is considered cheating. It's like
and,
no
and
matter
you
what.
still have to sit through mass every Sunday, even though they repeat the same program every year.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so it was whenever, actually the book Sex at Dawn, which I'm obsessed with Sex at Dawn, and several other books in this particular genre, so to speak. It was through that book that I wound up saying, like, I'm no longer going to do this.
Okay, what's
Like, I
the
went
book
through-
about other than sex in the morning?
Well, it isn't even really about sex in the morning.
Confusing title.
It's modern why we mate, how we stray, and what it means for modern relationships. So it was a really big one. It was one of those books that it was like, as I was reading it, I just kept
It was a
thinking.
really big one. Okay.
It was a big one.
Scored
It
on.
was a big one. On Audible, it's
that.
like 20-something hours.
That's long. That's a long time. Sting, tantric meditation, possible. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So.
But if it happens, call a doctor. It was 4 hours. That's a lot of hours.
Anyway, I just kept thinking, like, I can't live, like, people have been lying to me. That's what I kept thinking. They've been lying to me my whole damn life about this sex thing, about this relationship thing, about love, this religious story. They've been lying. And so thank goodness at that time I had traveled a lot and I'd seen a lot of things and experienced, experienced a lot of people, relationships, rather, that I was able to kind of wade through that.
All right, so let's. You have a presentation to go to and present.
I do. I
So
get to
let's
talk
close
about
it.
sexual deviancy.
Let's close it out on this note. So, as we all learned, you were a Bitcoin virgin when you came to this event.
Of
just
course, you
the
had
other
to throw
day.
in virgin. I'm not the biggest fan, unless we're talking about olive oil. So tell me.
So, how was your first Bitcoin experience?
You were there. It was magical. to come with me so I could get I was like, a wallet? I know, this is really sad to admit all of this on there, but I mean, I think that
Everyone
I've
has
met
a-
enough people to help me on this journey. I'll help you with your understanding your sexuality kind of journey, and you guys can help me with my Bitcoin
And
journey.
how many have offered to help you with your Bitcoin journey?
How
while
many
you were
people
here?
are at the conference?
Oh, so I should feel very special then.
I guess so. I don't know. It's been very interesting. I've actually had a lot of conversations about consensual non-monogamy. People who travel a lot and have wives or girlfriends in different locations, and well, I guess it's because my first talk was about liberation within relationship structures. Now I'm going to talk about kink and BDSM and all of those things.
Yeah, we've been streaming the wrong presentations. We might be in the wrong field here.
Yeah, well, if you guys
I
spend a
know.
lot
We
of
streamed
time,
Peter Todd, who's gonna come on next. Oh man.
Boring.
I think if you spend a lot of time behind a keyboard, Lord knows what you are jacking off to. So it's like, how do you?
I'm not
how
even
do
going to
you-
look at the chat.
How do you go about expressing that in real life in a healthy way? You know, there's outlets. There's definitely healthy outlets. So,
And where can people learn more about your work? Are you still blogging?
yes, thevioletbutterfly.com.
All right, I saw the butterfly
I do.
already,
I have
yeah.
Lots of butterflies. It's kind of my thing, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll put your contact information
Yes, please.
in the video description. And these presentations are recorded, so please check out Alexa's presentation. Probably in a week or so when it goes public, we'll try and tweet it out.
Yay,
All right.
Twitter, my favorite.
Thank you so much, Alexa, for being on the show. And now I'd like to talk about my bag. I just bought this bag and it's incredible. It's upside down, but it's got Bitcoin, Litecoin, some kind of diamond-shaped logo I'm not familiar with. And maybe some of you have heard of it. But this bag, which also has a laptop sleeve inside, it folds in half, looks great on your arm. This is the world's first bag that's on the blockchain. I was included a QR code with a unique identifier for this bag. Here it is. I'm not going to show it because I don't want you to steal my bag. But this is a cryptographically owned and proven bag. I'll soon be registering it. And if you want to steal it, you'll have to steal my key and transfer ownership of this bag on the blockchain. So check that out, the Bitcoin bag, only sold here at Paralelní Polis. But now we have a new guest who needs no introduction, but we'll introduce him anyway. Peter Todd. Oh, nobody clapped for me. So
Thanks,
Peter,
everyone.
my brother from another mother, we're twins as we discussed last night. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Be sure to talk really close to the microphone and talk really loud so you can out-project even me.
I'll do what I can.
All right. So we've got Peter Todd, the contrarian. Let's start with the hardest questions first. Let's go right to it. We were both at JJ's presentation at the Breaking Bitcoin conference in Paris. And as you all know, JJ won the conference. He broke Bitcoin. He did it on stage. He wasn't supposed to. He told the organizers he wouldn't. Elizabeth Stark asked him questions before you. She was very physically and verbally upset. She was mad. She's one of the organizers and she felt lied to. But JJ overloaded a node by sending it too much traffic, filling its RAM. The node crashed. This could crash many other nodes. He kind of said 3 out of the 4 implementations had a fix. Fix hadn't been deployed yet. And I think you started asking him about industry standards. So what are the industry standards for disclosing vulnerabilities? What should JJ have done? What did he do?
Well, I think actually the industry standards aren't necessarily the interesting thing there.
Right?
Like, what I kind of asked JJ was essentially, going through, who did you disclose it to? When you
Sure.
went and told people, I will go disclose it later, I will give you time to fix it, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously you're setting a precedent. You're saying, well, I will go work with you to get it fixed out. And so that when I do disclose, which, should happen at some point,
Sure.
the network isn't vulnerable. Now, what JJ didn't seem to know was that Bitcoin Core was already aware of that problem and had already, the reason why we rewrote that database was to fix that issue.
Sure.
So that was all well in the process. And his timing was a bit interesting because it was right before he knew that version 15, which had the fix, would get released.
Sure. Version 15, which also knocked all the SegWit 2x nodes off the network until another questionable thing happened.
We should get into that as well, because that's not quite an accurate way to put it.
Right.
But, so from the point of view of JJ, I mean, for him to do that disclosure in that way, it's very obviously political.
He did get to a bit of a pitch at the end of the speech. He said we shouldn't have a centralized Blockstream core development team. Sorry, I said it wrong. Bitcoin core development team. Everyone gets mad if I say it wrong. But he said no centralized. He wanted 4 or 5 teams working on it. He seems to think that's the current better model. What would you think about that?
The fact that multiple of those decentralized teams that do exist were vulnerable to this same problem goes to show that, re-implementing stuff is not a magical fix.
No.
And in fact, the nature of consensus systems is a consensus system only works if it's in consensus. If there are questions about whether or not the network is in consensus, are you going to accept Bitcoins? Of course not. You'd be crazy.
Yeah.
This is why on Ethereum, which does have multiple implementations, every time that there's a consensus failure, the first thing the exchanges do is hit that big red button and immediately shut everything down. And I'm sorry, but that's not a scenario where having multiple implementations made something more reliable. It makes it less reliable because there's more ways that it can go fail.
Sure.
Similarly, even if you try to run multiple ones at the same time, try to average them out or something, well, I'm going to pick a different set of consensus systems than you will. And so my one will fail in different ways than your system will.
Sure.
Which means that from the point of view of the guys trying to fix it, now they have, n squared more possible
problems,
possible ways this can all fail. So I'm sorry, but the reality is, for the type of system that Bitcoin is, adding that kind of redundancy does not help. And this is seen in experience elsewhere. We have NASA software standards where they try to do this exact same concept, multiple implementations, to go and say control the flight software, say the shuttle or something.
Sure.
And the reality is, even in their case where they don't need consensus, they still find that they can't get more reliability to the same extent that they expected.
And this sounds like the same kind of NASA system that sent one of our Mars rovers underground. They didn't convert the units, and the rover did exactly what it was told to do and plummeted into the Earth because of a meters to miles.
Underground is a very nice way to put that. By underground, we should really say it turned into a smear of molten, vaporized metal the moment it hit Mars. In fact, to be exact, what actually happened is it hit the atmosphere and burned up in the atmosphere.
It's going too fast?
Yeah, I mean, even in Mars, it's not a pure vacuum. So when you hit it at that speed, that 1% of Earth's atmosphere...
millions of dollars vaporized,
it turned into a shooting star.
Tragic loss.
Yeah. And again, I mean, that's the exact kind of thing. Like, even if you have multiple implementations, they end up making the same mistake. And the process of debugging them just gets harder. Now, what I think the interesting thing about JJ is not that kind of issue. It's more that he lied, and he lied repeatedly. He lied about Bitcoin ABC having a fix. Oh, Bitcoin ABC, I mean, they fixed it, after only a couple days after I announced it.
Sure.
JJ, where did they get that fix? Off Bitcoin Core.
Yeah.
They didn't develop that fix. And I'm sorry, but making that type of claim is lying. The nicest possible thing you can say is it's lying by omission, and that's still a lie.
Sure, it is.
Same thing as he said, B2X, Jeff Garsik's implementation had it fixed. No, they hadn't. Again, they got it from Bitcoin Core when they did fix it, and B, they hadn't merged it at that point. Sorry, they just didn't have a fix. And ultimately, it's pretty clear the guy was doing political maneuvering to try to discredit other implementations. Now, the reality is, I mean, I've never bothered running Bitcoin, JJ's implementation, but from what I hear, it doesn't actually work that well. And it uses up a ton of RAM and crashes often. So, I'm sorry, but
similar problem to what he was presenting.
And I think chances are the only reason we haven't heard more stuff about this is because no one really cared about his implementation. Now that he's set himself up as a pariah, as a target, he'll get a lot of pissed off people probably looking at his code. And given he's not willing to do responsible disclosure, some of those people will probably not for him. Now, I'm sure, like, say, Gregory Maxwell will still responsibly disclose to them. I mean, he's above these kind of issues.
Sure.
But, don't piss off like a world full of hackers.
No, I already felt that just the other day. We had a masked man on, and I'm a little questionable about wearing a mask in public. I'm either a be in private or be in public kind of guy. But I didn't want to piss off that masked man. I know, it's a mystery. Where'd Peter go? But still, they have their thing, and that's what they're into. But the other thing about JJ's presentation is it brought up the possibility of other butterflies, to reference the previous talk, butterflies. And there's other coins that are based on Bitcoin that could have the same vulnerability. And did JJ inform them? Did we even list them? I don't even know where to start, but there are certainly copies of Bitcoin that could be affected by the same thing, right?
We know he didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, and frankly, like within Bitcoin Core, it's a big issue because there's this endless list of coins, and where do you draw the line? You know, and also even disclosing it to other coins is problematic.
They could attack each other. And
and they could attack Bitcoin too
Yeah.
if you disclose prematurely. You know, I know with Monero, they recently had a major issue. I believe it allowed you to counterfeit coins, and the way they fixed this was they deployed it first on Monero, got out on the network, and once they were protected, still all in secret, then they told the Monero clones that they knew of, hey, we fixed this issue, you better fix it as well. Here's the deadline. And as far as I know, everyone that they were able to go through this process with did fix it in time. So.
And now just to compare this to other security vulnerabilities, I know in generally software, there's kind of a question, should you tell everyone? How long should you wait? Maybe you told Microsoft, but they won't fix it, so you make a website, or something like the Heartbleed bug comes out that's so big they don't know how to fix it. Where do you stand on this? Should people expose vulnerabilities to the public, or should they try to work with the companies?
I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis. And this is part of why I say the interesting thing about this JJ situation is not the disclosure.
Yeah.
Had JJ gone from the start and said, I'm just going to disclose this immediately, I mean, I might not think in that particular case he did the right thing, but I wouldn't say that in general he'd done the wrong thing.
Because
right?
if you disclose it immediately, your goal is obviously to get the fix as soon as possible. Everyone freaks out, they drop what they're doing, they fix it.
Yeah.
The other option is to wait. So JJ waited.
And the main thing is just, be consistent and don't lie to people. If you tell people, I'm going to go wait, you should actually wait. Or at bare minimum, at least ask them before you do a presentation. In some cases, disclosure right away makes a lot of sense. As an example, when that backdoor was found in Bitmain hardware, the reality is we knew it was backdoor, and I think the people
it was
behind
an
that weren't
intentional backdoor, maybe to
Yeah.
control the miners, or for people that have a lot of miners, it was a control mechanism. But from the outside, it could also be a control mechanism, right?
In the case of that backdoor, and I was informed about the intention to go and disclose this. And if I remember correctly, one of the things I said to the people behind this was, well, do we have a way for people to patch this issue? And the reality was yes. It was like a one-line firewall config change, that would fix it immediately. Is this a
Easy
perfect
for the
thing?
miners
No.
to implement, their firewall adjusts, and then now you can't control their miners remotely.
Yeah. So I think in that particular case, I felt comfortable saying, put up a website and get it disclosed and get people to fix it right away.
Sure.
In the case of this Bitcoin issue, it required a fundamental redesign of how the databases worked. That's why it took many months for Bitcoin Core to get it fixed out, because since no one was saying they were going to disclose it, you might as well go through the testing process and do a good job on this.
And that does seem to be one of the tenets of the Bitcoin Core team, is that they always do the testing and they always take the extra time, because like many have said, it's like fixing an airplane while it's flying. And if you make a mistake, the airplane could go down. And at first it was millions of dollars of people's money, and now maybe it's billions of dollars of people's money. It's the pressure keeps rising and is going to keep rising in the future if the price of Bitcoin keeps going up.
That's absolutely true.
So also at Breaking Bitcoin, you gave a speech, and I only caught the end of it, but it was one of my favorite topics, and it's in my head to go back and watch the live stream later, but I'm just so busy these days going country to country. But you talked about the potential for space aliens to mine Bitcoin, maybe to disrupt the network, maybe just to make some sweet profit in space, maybe some solar panels. Tell us more about your talk.
Well, where you say space aliens, I think...
they could be humans in space.
Well, let's face it, the most likely type of space alien we're talking about is the type that Trump is building a wall to keep out.
The illegal aliens. So if they give it up and Elon Musk takes them into space, could they mine Bitcoin faster?
Well,
could they send it from Mars?
That talk all humor aside, it was really about finding a way to go teach the math behind block propagation and really how this very counterintuitive thing effect works, where if I'm a miner and my internet connection is slower than the rest of the network, that harms me, usually, right? Because
Now, I've
find
heard
blocks,
some people, I think I talked to you before when we were talking about scaling Bitcoin, when I was really excited, we were talking about the Great Firewall of China, and that if you were behind the network there, it would be like playing Doom or Quake with an advantage. Those servers could run better than the servers on the other side. Is it similar to that in space?
Yeah, so that's absolutely your example where, I mean, let's suppose we're all in a big Quake death match.
Sure.
And
I'm gonna win.
yeah, and it's a decentralized Quake deathmatch, so there's no central server.
Right.
And if the majority of the people in our Quake deathmatch are within the same light cone, if you will, within the same low latency area,
Okay.
those people have an advantage over the people who aren't in that area.
Right.
Well, if you go join in and you are in a high, in that particular case, he's not as crazy as you might think, because let's suppose you do have space solar. You know, you have solar panels or something like that up in space collecting power. How do you get the power back down to Earth? Well, one way is you use a bunch of crazy microwaves or lasers or God knows what
Sure.
to get it down.
Yeah.
Or you could just put some Bitcoin miners up there.
Attach them to the solar panels.
Exactly.
Satellites going around.
Yeah, and then you're not beaming the power back, but you're beaming the money back.
Fantastic.
Now, the issue with that then is, well, space is big. If I'm going to put a bunch of solar panels up in space, do I want to do that Earth's orbit, or do I want to do it a bit closer to the sun? Potentially, the way the physics works is maybe I want it really close to the sun to get the maximum amount of sunlight.
Obvious problems aside, heavy gravity, heavy heat.
Well, I mean, and I actually brought this up in my talk, like, all right, how close to the sun might you get? Well, I just looked up on the NASA page, what's the satellite that's closest to the sun, and picked a number saying, let's assume that's true.
Right.
Well, the problem is that, that distance from us to that satellite would be multiple minutes
Right.
from the speed of light. Well, if one or two miners set up shop there, they're the ones at a disadvantage. But the moment
Sure.
the majority does, suddenly all of Bitcoin flips. And they're the guys, that's where the consensus is, in orbit around the sun. We're not in the consensus.
So the solar Bitcoin miners could
Yep.
essentially take control of the network. But wouldn't we be able to build faster chips here on Earth and maybe take it back? I mean, they'd have to keep launching satellites.
Well, where
to keep
do you
up
think
with
they got the chips in the first place? Probably Earth.
Probably
I mean,
Earth.
we build faster chips on Earth.
Unless they have a
Someone's
space
going to go buy
foundry or
them and,
something, yeah.
put them up near the Earth, near the sun.
Someone like Elon Musk has his own rockets, loves space. Maybe Jeff Bezos.
It's just it's a fundamental issue, and part of my talk had the line in it, which I think a lot of people may took a little too seriously.
Yeah.
The irony of decentralized consensus systems is they have to be centralized to work.
That is very ironic. Yeah.
Now, by centralized, I mean centralized in the same solar system or same planet as you. People tended to take it a little more centralized than that, but
Yeah.
it is true. I mean, if you're in consensus, by definition, it means we can communicate in a reasonably fast time.
Sure.
And because the speed of light is fixed,
Right.
that means we must be relatively close to each other. Now, by relatively, maybe we're talking the same orbit, but if you ask an astronomer, that's pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close as opposed to a whole galaxy away
Yeah.
or even further.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really interesting talk. And then, so we've survived the Bcash fork. It went off with replay protection, so in that way they did a good thing. It was a solid. Unfortunately, it had the same address space as Bitcoin, so now there's a confusion.
Yeah.
You can send your Bcash, you can send your Bitcoin to the same addresses.
Which BitPay is spearheading an effort to fix, by the way.
That's excellent. I mean, what are they going to maybe upgrade Bcash to change the namespace, or what's the fix like?
The fix is pretty simple. They have a new address format, which is exactly the same as old address format, but with version number changed.
Okay.
So, if I remember correctly, the addresses are going to start with a C, I think. But
All right.
that's enough to fix the problem.
And if you call them Bitcoin Cash, they're fine with it. But if you call them Bcash, it's a slur. So we'll have to
Bcash.
We'll have to keep working with that. I know. So that one went off fine and it had replay protection, but now once again there's another fork on the horizon, the SegWit 2X fork, the New York agreement. They made a deal, they have to stick with it, and they need double the block size, even though the mempool is empty and SegWit transactions are cheaper. So what do you think
for
about
the record,
this?
by the way, I just made a deal to
Yeah.
take your bag.
Yeah.
So, deal's done. I've got your bag.
This is a bad deal. What about my blockchain ownership?
Why are you reneging on it? My deal was I take your bag and
Right.
I'll continue this interview.
Because I didn't agree with this deal.
So,
So this is the same deal with SegWit 2X?
well, yeah. I also agreed that I'm going to deploy this thing called P2X, Peter's 2X coin.
Right.
All right, and half the coins go to me.
That sounds perfectly fair.
Yeah, yeah. The other half goes to the miners, and then you guys get nothing.
So you think that the New York agreement is just making up their own rules at this point?
Yeah. And I mean, if I were a miner, I could make up my own rules.
Sure.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. So are you on the page where maybe Bcash was the miners trying to take control of the network, and now we're seeing the corporations try to take control of the network?
Well, probably both this time. I mean, corporations want control. Some corporations, I should add, not all of them.
Sure.
But some want control, and miners, they're willing to share that control. And I like in my talk earlier today here at HTTP, someone asked me what I thought of B2X, and I went to answer, well, I mean, why don't we put this to the audience? Who's willing to go buy my B2X tokens? And I, suffice to say, got no hands.
No hands, and you were offering a 1-to-1 trade, Bitcoin for B2X?
You know, I should have done like a declining, Dutch auction, declining price, see what
yeah,
the price
yeah.
would be. But come on. Surely I could have sold at least one to some guy once. Said, hey, I bought Peter Todd's B2X.
They're
you know?
probably worth more because they were yours. A collector's item.
And even I couldn't get any. And you know, if I were in like Roger Vere's position and I thought B2X was going to be a real thing, surely I'd try to go push this thing by saying, hey, let's actually make a market. Because after all, the Bitfinex price is all well and good, but you got to trust Bitfinex. And we know how well that
the
goes.
exchange that printed their own debt token and then sold them for like 10 cents on the dollar or something like that? It was a little fishy.
Well, I mean, that's another issue. Although point out, the alternative there was bankruptcy and you'd lose everything. It was essentially
It's a good alternative.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to
still,
say it was legal, but I will say it wasn't crazy.
At least it worked. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It worked, but yeah.
But you know, the proof's in the pudding there. I mean, if people aren't willing to go buy a token, then chances are it's not worth much. And more importantly, saying that's Bitcoin when the market has obviously said it's not worth as much as Bitcoin, that's straight up fraud.
And I think you said that in your speech, and we were talking earlier today how Roger said on GitHub that Bitcoin.com would be listing B2X as Bitcoin with the ticker symbol BTC. And just in your talk, I have the quote here, I wrote it down. You said, "I'm sorry to say, but disguising B2X to something else is fraud. It's making fraud possible." I thought that was wonderful.
You said it better than I did.
You have to slow down. It's about the intonation.
It's about the intonation.
That's it.
Yeah, so part of my discussion there was how the fact that it looks like they may be committing fraud on this contributes to their problem of getting developers. If I'm a developer and I'm kind of a pansy who's not really that courageous or
The
anything.
girl's gone. You could say it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm just like a little soft-shelled wimp, but I'll go look at the SEC and the FBI and think, if I really want to be doing things that look pretty fraudulent, having my name on it by developing this B2X thing, maybe I'll just keep working on core. And that is certainly, I don't think, the only reason why there's no B2X developers, but I'm sure it's one of the contributing factors. It's probably fourth or fifth on the list because, we're all courageous, manly men who go ride horsebacks shirtless.
She might watch this later, so yeah, let's pipe her.
Yeah, it's like, there's just so many things wrong with the B2X project.
And certainly it's worth mentioning Matt Corello, Blue Matt, his letter to the SEC about one of these ETFs. He said the ETF, who, again, there's a lot of questions about these. The Winklevi ETF was making the price, holding the coins, selling the coins. A lot of one hand in the pie here. And what Blue Matt said is he said that he was concerned that the ETF could recognize the other version of Bitcoin, then sell all of their Bitcoin core, buying a bunch of Bitcoin 2x, driving up the price, and suddenly you're holding an ETF ticket that you thought was one Bitcoin, and suddenly it's one B2X or one Bcash or one of these other forks down the line.
Matt Corallo, he got a lot of shit from people for saying that. Oh, you're not a cypherpunk, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sorry, but that's just common sense consumer protection.
Absolutely.
You can be a cypherpunk as you want, but part of my view of being a cypherpunk is if people choose not to be, I'm okay with that.
Well, I get called a statist all the time. You mentioned consumer protection. One of my idols is Ralph Nader, who brought us seat belts and airbags and consumer protection for a while before the recent administration. We even had a consumer protection agency started under the Obama administration whose task would be to protect consumers from corporations. And I know the libertarians in the audience are saying, let the market decide, let the market decide. Who cares how many babies we serve poisoned milk to? We have to wait till 150,000 of them die and then we'll act on it. But to act before, to try to save those babies or to save people that won't put their seatbelt on or won't pay the extra $1,000 to get airbags, but they could get a sweet stereo. This is a nonsense nanny state thing, but again, that's where I am. I'm a horrible statist. So Peter, you're in the seatbelt category, or what's
Speaking as a crazy libertarian, I think if people go choose to buy into a system of consumer protection, great. After all, Bitcoin's consumer protection. I am protected from all those people trying to go steal my private information. For some transactions, that's more important to me than being able to call up my credit card company and say, yeah, I definitely didn't buy that laptop that's sitting on my bed right now. Please reverse the transaction. Sometimes that type of consumer protection works. Other times that's not consumer protection at all. Bitcoin provides an option that complements the existing system.
So one-way send. Once I send my Bitcoin, it's gone. I better have gotten my product for it, otherwise it's gone. Like the PayPal example I brought up earlier, I sold a very small bit on eBay years ago. The guy claimed he was hacked. Maybe he was, maybe it was his buddy. And he took my Bitcoin, PayPal took my PayPal money, and I ended up with an empty bag.
Which weren't
Peter
exactly
took.
protected.
I was not protected by PayPal or eBay. They didn't listen to my side at all. I sent them a one-way transaction. It was gone. I was in the process of transferring my money to my account, but as many people know, PayPal has the power to freeze your money at any time, and they don't really care about your story.
And unfortunately for you, I heard your little spiel about this bag being protected by the blockchain or something.
The
but,
ownership can be verified.
I hate to say this, but that ownership doesn't really translate into the physical world. So when I go walk out that door with your bag, I don't think anyone's going to give a rat's ass that it was recorded on the blockchain.
Fortunately, I have security, and they will scan your card and say, no, sir.
I suspect the number one thing that's going to prevent me from walking away with your bag is because I'm saying I'm about to go steal your bag live on the World Crypto Network.
The evidence which I will have will be insurmountable.
Come to think of it, here you go.
Well, if you gave me my bag back, I have to give you a gift. I'm not sure we're done yet because I want to go back and talk about Jeff Garzik and the 0.15. But while we're giving out gifts, I have a special gift here from CryptoHWWallet.com. I'm sure you have a Trezor wallet at home, maybe in a hidden location or maybe not in your home. But would you like a brown or a black leather case for your Trezor wallet?
I think I'm going to go with black like the future.
Everyone seems to want black. Personally, I chose brown. It's more of a leather color for me. But thank you so much and enjoy that Crypto HW wallet there. But what about Jeff Garzik and the 0.15? So I said it wrong or something. Does 0.15 disconnect these SegWit nodes? Let's start there.
Well, so the thing to remember is that Bitcoin, I guess the way to put it is Bitcoin relies on information being propagated widely. And this is why, for instance, Bitcoin uses Tor to make sure that you can't be censored, to try to get information from your node to their node and their node to your node. Well, one of the simplest ways you screw this up is if every connection you have is to nodes that that aren't on the same currency as you are.
Right.
So if I have a B2X node and all my peers are Bitcoin nodes, the moment B2X becomes a separate currency, I'll be isolated from all the other B2X nodes.
Right.
equally, if I'm a Bitcoin node and all my peers are B2X nodes, the moment that happens, I'm going to be isolated from my Bitcoin nodes. So making sure that the network topology splits in advance of the actual consensus split is just common sense. We did this on SegWit, where SegWit nodes would only make outgoing connections to other SegWit nodes to ensure that you would definitely have the topology of SegWit nodes ready in advance for when SegWit, was created as a soft fork. Now, soft fork versus hard fork is slightly different in the exact ways that this network works out. But the principle is still the same. You want to ensure that you're talking to nodes who share your interpretation. In the case of SegWit, the interpretation is more narrow. In the case of B2X, the interpretation is simply incompatible. So, obviously, you actually want B2X nodes to go split off in advance. And because there's definitely going to be some nodes that still connect to both sides of that network are still interconnected. It's just that the primary connections are the correct ones and are safe ones. So really what the B2X team is doing by complaining about this is showing how little they actually understand how networking works in consensus systems. And equally, the Bitcoin audience, and quite frankly, you're an example of this, by describing it that way, you're also showing you don't really fully understand these nuanced issues, which is all right. This is a very subtle issue. It'd take you a few months, first learning about this to realize this, but that's the way the system works.
I'm going to be busy reading that blog that we talked about earlier, so I'm going to need those few months.
Long story short is the description of this being disconnected or kicking them off the network isn't correct.
Okay.
It's changing the network topology to make sure that you have peers that are like-minded.
So Core was about to change the network topology, but then it seems to me like Jeff Garzik put a pull request where they're not going to signal anymore, so now we can't properly identify them, something like that?
Yeah, well, I think this is an example where the intent reveals much more about what they actually did. What that command line thing is just a change to the flags.
Right.
So it shouldn't be a big deal, but they're not doing it in the right way. What they really should do is say, for a subset of B2X nodes, we'll just ensure that they have connections to both sides. And that will be enough to ensure that the two sides that work are definitely interconnected and everything will be fine. Instead, it's all about, well, you're trying to kick us off the network, we're going to bypass all this, and it just gets silly. They're just not talking about the actual issue there, probably because they don't really understand it. And why don't they understand it? Well, because they don't have any devs. You got Jeff Garzik, who didn't even do the recent rebase for version 15. Some other unknown guy did it. Gavin kind of dips his toes in once in a while, but it's nothing compared to the dozens of devs that Bitcoin Core has working every single day, and reviewing things and so on. And it's hard to keep up with that.
So they've had two kind of sneaky moves with the 0.15 thing, and then now Roger with the labeling issue. Let's continue to delve into these conspiracy theories. I didn't want to ask Adam back, but I want to ask you, what do you think about the Blockstream satellites? Because I was talking to some guys, and let's just say they're on the other side of this argument, and they painted a picture to me where Blockstream was kind of this evil company trying to take over all of the Bitcoin transactions and all of the nodes, and that these new satellites that they're renting time on would somehow take over the whole network and control all the nodes. Do you see that happening? Is that possible?
Oh, I think you completely misunderstood the conspiracy. The real conspiracy is that Blockstream created this free-to-use service that adds a redundant measure to Bitcoin's networking, so on, purely to go piss Jeff Garzik off. Every day I wake up and think, you know what? I'm going to make the world a better place to make Jeff Garzik unhappy.
And this is, of course, because Jeff Garzik had the Bit satellite idea, made a couple speeches about it, but never actually made it. Now, Blockstream, I think Jimmy Song on our network already set up his satellite dish, is receiving the transactions in a passive way. Then you could send your transactions with SMS. This would work in places like Africa with bad internet. I never saw it taking over the whole network, but I wanted to float their idea there and see what you thought.
It's just silly to, this is like saying, I'm going to go and start up a new ISP, so obviously I'm going to take over the Bitcoin network. Well, no, I'm just providing people more options to get data around. As an example, we never actually got around to doing it, Gregory Maxwell and I, we were discussing, it would be really cool to go like set up a modem and use the phone line to move blocks around.
Sure.
And that
These are the kind of things you guys think
Yeah,
about.
well,
I got more on that later.
Yeah.
I've been to some of your meetings.
And that actually is a potentially useful thing, because the failure modes where the internet goes down and phone lines go down are different.
Sure.
Because that underlying technology is different, and the routing layers end up being a bit different. Not as different as they used to be, but still different.
Right.
So by just having that redundancy, you make it less likely that both will fail at once. Blockstream satellite, frankly, most of the use of this, I mean, the Africa thing is all well and nice, but I think the main thing it really does for Bitcoin is it provides a redundant way of getting block data around to ensure the network stays in consensus. And a good example was actually Puerto Rico, where I was actually just talking to the last conference I was at, someone from Puerto Rico, who remarkably was at that conference, and apparently had spent like the past week without power.
Wow.
And he was telling us how once they did get power back, they found out very quickly that within the island they had networking. The internet was up within the island,
Right.
but the links from the island outside were down. But with one Blockstream satellite receiving blocks, that entire island within itself would be in consensus with the rest of the Bitcoin network. And that's a very powerful thing. It just makes Bitcoin that much less likely to go fail for people.
And we could continue to use it during the tragedy. Maybe you could sell relief and supplies, still receive some kind of payment for it, even though the rest of the network's down.
Yeah. And, in some cases it can be even simpler, just to make sure that you realize when censorship happens. You get that extra opportunity. Whereas if you don't, there are attacks you can do. China is a scary example here, where their Great Firewall of China potentially could separate part or even subsets of the Bitcoin mining community from each other and use that to conduct attacks. But with something like Blockstream Satellite, they will find out very quickly, hang on a second, our internet connection mysteriously isn't giving us that blocks, but the satellite is.
And it would take almost nothing. They just need one satellite to
Yeah.
check, and then the rest of their computers could propagate.
And
data.
also there is upload bandwidth on the satellite. So while it's not fully there yet, long-term plans apparently are to allow you to upload both blocks and transactions to the satellites from anywhere, in which case they would repropagate this.
Now, how big or how expensive a satellite rig would you need to send data? Because I've seen the ones they're receiving on. It looks like the old dish network, TV network. That's a one-way. It just comes down, right?
Yeah, my understanding, I could be quite wrong on this, is that it's not that expensive. I mean, we're talking, I believe, on the order of a couple $100 to maybe
Sure.
a few thousand or something, depending on exactly what tech they use. But the big story there is that because Blockstream has reused existing satellite technology rather than launching their own, everything just becomes way cheaper. Jeff Garczyk's thing was use these little Pico satellites with a Bitcoin node running on them, and sure, that makes for great PR, but it
It was a
doesn't make that
romantic
much
idea.
sense.
I saw the
Yeah.
presentation. Yes, it was very exciting. I love space. So-
Yeah, it's very romantic, but the practicality is, all right, you've got these little 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter, small satellites up there. Well, they crash back down to Earth pretty quick.
Yeah, you
they're,
have to keep launching them.
Yeah, they're relatively low. That's an ongoing cost. They're not cheap. Whereas just renting bandwidth that already exists and is getting used less because less people have satellite TV services, for instance,
Sure.
just makes a lot of sense.
Could take over that whole industry. Just buy the satellites.
And for the record, that wasn't Jeff Garczyk's idea. It's a pretty obvious idea. There's satellites. Obviously, you're going to try to use this for communication. The clever thing Blockstream did was really about then coding. And the coding is such that if you're offline for, I believe it's up to 24 hours, they retransmit the blocks using this special encoding that, provided you get 1 day's worth of data, you can extract all those blocks no matter what part of that data set you collect. And I can't even begin to go into the math. It's all black magic to me, but it is magic, and it's very clever stuff. Forward error correction.
Well, it sounds great, and it's the kind of project that these guys are working on. I was going to mention one of the more esoteric things when you're talking about modems and sending the Blockstream over modems. I went to a presentation once at the San Francisco Bitcoin Developers Meetup. I think it was Peter Woolley, maybe Greg Maxwell as well. But they had worked out a system. If you ever read your public key over a telephone and you're writing down the numbers and you screwed them up, they had built a grid of other possible numbers, and they could work out where you'd screwed up. But at the same time, they wouldn't tell you because that'd be an attack vector. What do you think of this kind of work?
Yeah, well, that's what has since become the BEC32 SegWit address standard. And you're absolutely right, it is very clever. In that particular case, the rationale there is, well, first of all, obviously you want very good error detection.
Right.
You know, Ethereum has learned this the hard way, where with Ethereum addresses, if you make a typo, depending on exactly what software stack you are, you can end up easily sending money to the void. That's really, really bad, and tens of thousands of dollars being lost that way.
Sure.
So Bitcoin addresses have always had a strong checksum, and your chance for typo being a valid Bitcoin address is about like 1 in 4 billion.
So when you try to put it in the wallet doesn't go green, it just kind of sits there, and then you say, oh, I typed it wrong, and you fix it instead of sending your money nowhere and not getting it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the next step of that is first, Bitcoin addresses use upper and lowercase. So when I try to tell you one over the phone, it's like uppercase A, lowercase B. It's just silly. Yeah. So by removing the case from BEC32, it's easier to say. And then in terms of correcting mistakes, the clever thing about that is it's very good at correcting mistakes. And by having your UI be, here's where the mistake would be, go double check. It ensures that we don't get people to make a mistake, have it auto-corrected, and then they leave the mistake. Because if you leave the mistake, there's probably going to be another mistake made. And once you make enough mistakes, well, now you can no longer correct. So that's actually a UI level thing. It's not so much to protect against attacks, but rather against human error. It's like saying, well, if I had a kid, and my kid made a mistake on a spelling bee, would I just say, oh, you're close enough, and not tell them where they got it wrong? No.
Spell checkers do exist. I think it's fine.
Yeah, well, you gotta have that feedback process to go and help you improve that source material. I mean, it's why when I use a spell checker, I don't accept the corrections. I go back and actually go correct it. And if you've ever seen my tweets, obviously, I need a lot of work and a lot more practice with my spell checkers.
It can be tough. I really hate the little squiggly lines, but I have to do it. Everyone complains if you misspell something. It's almost as bad as if you mispronounce something, which I do all the time as well. So Peter, is there anything that you're working on right now? I know you're working on the Open Timestamps project. Are there any news on that or anything else that you'd like to tell our audience about while we have them here?
Well, Open Timestamps is kind of an interesting project because I started in 2012, basically as this would be cool to have. And then I learned more about Bitcoin. I was like, Open Timestamps is really boring.
But again, so valuable. Notaries, documents, my friend Chris Ellis, all of these people love to timestamp things.
Yeah, so about a year ago, actually about a year and a half ago, due to a request by my clients, I'd already done a re-implementation so they could re-implement it themselves, and I finally decided, I got to sit down and actually work on this. So I'm now in the position where I've actually got funding to do work on Open Timestamps and polish it and do all that really boring stuff that makes things usable.
So why don't you tell the people what Open Timestamp is and why it's not so boring? Yeah.
Well, you've often heard in Bitcoin, you can go and timestamp things with Bitcoin. You prove when data existed. And the traditional way of doing this is create a transaction output for this. That costs a pile of money. Open Timestamps essentially crowdfunds those transaction outputs in a sense, where everyone who needs a timestamp submits it to a set of calendar servers that then aggregate all those timestamps together, or timestamp requests together, and then do one Bitcoin transaction to timestamp all this stuff. And the other thing it does is it records that information in perpetuity so that you can go back after the fact and actually get your proof linking back to Bitcoin. Long story short, this means if I want to create something that will get timestamped to Bitcoin, I'll be able to know when it was created indefinitely. I can hit a button, and in about a second, I get my reply back. And I know that within a few hours, that'll get timestamped to Bitcoin, and I'll be able to get the proof back later. So this is just all infrastructure to do all this. And it just makes Bitcoin timestamping easy. And the nice thing about it is because we're aggregating, the cost to do those transactions is sufficiently low. I can certainly cover that with donations indefinitely. I mean, it's really not a big deal.
So where can people timestamp their documents right now? Where can they go to learn more about Open Timestamps?
Quite literally, opentimestamps.org, and there's a little JavaScript thing to timestamp your documents and verify them. And now, as a cypherpunk I am, I'm not going to say it's the most secure thing to verify there, but the timestamping part is every bit as secure as anything else, because it's not open timestamps you're trusting, it's Bitcoin.
So what else are you working on? Any new exciting projects? What's coming up next for Peter
Well,
Todd?
so timestamping is all well and good, but the standard example I give is if I'm timestamping a sale of a house, that doesn't prevent me from simultaneously selling that house to another guy.
Right.
What you need there is uniqueness. You know, you need an anti-double spend. And I'm also working on a library to make it easier to write decentralized applications that deal with anti-double spend. You know, and I generalize this in something I call a single-use seal, which is like, if you've ever seen a shipping container, there are these little seals on the handles that are numbered, and they apply them at one end, and when the shipping container shows up at the other side of the world, they verify the seal is still closed and the numbers match what it should be. And if that's true, what's inside hasn't changed. Well, the digital equivalent to that would be like a signature, but a magical signature they can only sign once. I call that a single-use seal. And when you close it, you get a witness saying, this seal was closed over this data. Well, this sounds like a Bitcoin transaction output, right? It's uniquely numbered.
Yeah.
And when you close it or spend it, you can only do that once. Well, once you build that primitive, you can build anything that needs uniqueness. You know, you can build your token transfer system, you can build your title system. You know, you can build a software repository where, you know, when I go tell you what version of software, you know, what exact binary of software corresponds to a version,
Right.
I can't lie to you and give you a special version that's different from what everyone else got. So there's tons of applications for this, but writing software that takes advantage of these ideas has always been hard, because there's a lot of data marshalling and so on. So I'm building something called Proof Marshal, which is all about marshalling proofs. You know, I want to prove something to you. With Proof Marshal, I can figure out what data do I need to give you to prove that thing, and it handles that whole process, and serializing the data, deserializing the data, and so on. Unfortunately, it's but 2 orders of magnitude more complex than open timestamps. Open timestamps you can do in like a weekend.
Sure, sure.
It's a long project. In fact, I started it prior to when I worked at R3 of all things. And
It's
this,
going way back into
Yeah.
Bitcoin history. Here.
yeah,
Everyone's
this actually wound up
Googling.
getting, you know, the beginnings of R3's Corda of all things, which as much as I'm sure we can all hate on R3, their Corda technology is actually not bad. And
Yeah.
for that use case, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, excellent. Thanks so much, Peter, for being on the show.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Enjoy your treasure wallet. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right, now we'd like to welcome the man behind the camera, Ryan Taylor. He's going to join us. He's knocking down everything as audio engineers are apt to do. And he knows how to talk into this microphone.
Yeah, I
because
think I do.
It's his microphone.
Yes, it is. Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hello, Tom.
Internet. Hello, Ryan.
It's funny looking at you from this angle.
I know. It's what happens to everybody else when they're down here. So, but now what we were going to talk about today is live streaming and the difficulties of live streaming. This is a unique and historic event here where the original San Francisco Bitcoin Meetup live streamer is joined by the new San Francisco Bitcoin live streamer who's also recently given up the job. So now
Passing the torch along.
passed the torch, and then I passed it again. Now it's Travis's problem.
And it's full of problems.
Oh
It's
boy,
definitely
it
not
sure
an easy
is.
task.
So you start out with live streaming, and you set up a camera, and you're like, well, I'm going to record it to a SIM card. I'm going to go home. I'm going to upload it later. Then they want you to edit it. Then you realize editing is a nightmare because you make edits, then you have to render it, then you have to upload. Last night I watched an upload for 2 or 3 hours because I shot offline instead of live streaming. Rookie mistake, but I just wanted a nice, crisp, clean copy that I knew would work, and I had to do some tests and things. But then you give up on this recording to SD card thing, and you decide to go live. So maybe you go live on your web camera, and you're really close to Amir Taki in Paris at the Breaking Bitcoin conference, and you think you've done a good job. You march to the front row, you embarrassed yourself in front of a whole group, and you point it right at it, and the audience just explodes. Bad audio, bad audio.
It's only on one channel.
Only
Point the
one
camera in a different
channel.
place.
And so you just give up, you close the laptop, let the other live streamers handle it. But what do the pros do? How do the pros live stream these crazy events?
Well, it's a lot of experience, a lot of trial and error, trial and failure, and
Trial
in
and
many
failure,
cases.
yeah.
I mean, it depends who you're working with. I do a lot of my stuff on my own, so I have control of the camera. It's all of my own equipment. Of course, I've had to buy all of my own equipment. So at first, you're using a shotgun mic or something, and then you end up saving enough. Crypto goes up enough, so you have some money to invest into this equipment to basically quell your audience, right? Like you're just trying to put them on mute without banning all of them.
Yeah, it's a pain. Your fingers hurt after a while.
yeah. So really, yeah, I guess I don't even know if I consider myself a pro at this point. I've been doing decentralized events for about 3 years now, and upgrading equipment when I can. I use a live stream. It's a live stream encoder called a Video, which is awesome because it just takes the audio and video from the camera, from any camera you put it into it, and through Ethernet or Wi-Fi. That's why we live stream in standard definition a lot, because you go to these venues and a lot of times you don't know what kind of internet connection you're going to get.
You ask for a hard line over and over again, and you can't get a hard line, so you have to go over the Wi-Fi anyway.
Yeah, and then they have us this weekend. They have us live streaming from 3 different rooms. We're live streaming from here. We live streamed from the Paper Hub. We live streamed from a room I can't even pronounce across the hall here.
Slevarna.
Yeah. Oh, and then the main room too. So we've been live streaming 4 different rooms. None of them have
rooms.
Ethernet.
No Ethernet.
We've used 4 different cameras each time. So yeah, it's just a matter of just moving with the punches and not falling down. And then of course today, I mean, everything's going so smoothly at this event. We really haven't had many struggles. So I set up the live stream for Peter's thing and then went and grabbed a beer. And that was great. It was wonderful. I saw one of the conference organizers and he asked how it's going. I said, if you see me getting a beer, it's working.
Absolutely. So I had much the same experience. First, I bought a very expensive Black Magic box, which was truly black magic because I could never get the damn thing to work. I still need to resell it or send it back to Amazon. They don't want it anymore. But now recently I bought a video game streaming box. Originally my goal was to stream myself playing the new Zelda, but then I realized that I was time stamping how long I was playing the new Zelda.
I watched some of those for regrettably too long.
Oh, it was a good game. And sometimes you're good at talking and you think you'll be one of these geek gamer live streamers, but I get tired of talking, and mostly I just want to curse when I die. And I die a lot. I'm not the best video gamer in the world. I think I am, but I'm not. I was also telling everyone how long I spent playing Zelda and how often I played. So I cut that out pretty quick. But then I realized dual function technology. I could use this video game live streamer to live stream the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup.
That's awesome.
And I think that brought us up a level. Now Travis says he has a little Mobi live camera, some kind of Kickstarter project, and he's going to try that. And I guess it worked last time. I kind of glanced at it, but anything that's over an hour, I don't have time for.
Yeah, I definitely recommend the Teradek videos. This one's been great. They are pricey. They're pretty expensive.
About how much are we talking? Let's start running down the rig so everyone knows how much money we spend to live stream things for free so that we can promote your ICO.
Yeah, there will be no ICO. I have no interest in that. So basically what we're looking at right now is, besides all of these pervs on the net, is I have a Canon Vixia camera, the G20, which I think cost at the time, it was like $1,500. And then so we got the video that I have was $800. They have a new model which doesn't have the Ethernet port. It has a 3-hour battery instead of the 1-hour battery, and I think that's $500. I thought about getting it, but I live stream from kind of ideal environments usually where I have power, so I don't need the extra battery, and I like having the Ethernet option. So then, and then I was working with a Rode shotgun mic for a while, and if I was at a venue where they had wireless mics or where I could get a line from the audio mixer, that was cool, but the complaints I got because my audio was bad. In fact, at one point, Bitcoin Belle offered to show her tits if I would get a better audio feed for an Open Bazaar meetup. I was live streaming. Of course, I couldn't get it, so all I got was a picture of her legs in the bathtub. Still not a bad thing. That's all on Twitter. Yeah, it's all on Twitter. So sometimes the audience gets really entertaining about it, but mostly you just get a lot of hate. And so I ended up buying these microphones, these Sennheiser, And that's my German accent.
Very good.
And, yeah, and these were about $1,000 a piece because the receivers for them are what? They're like about this big. This handheld mic, and then Tom has the lav mic clipped. Oh shit, I don't even know if they can hear you.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Enough of that. I haven't been reading the chat since the sex therapist came through.
Yeah.
It got a little blue.
Yeah, it's probably them yelling at you right now because we fucked up the audio.
Let's see. Okay, you can tell me now if the audio's been bad for half an hour, but I'll bet you could hear Peter.
Oh, what's up, Magnus? My homie, watching, always sending the love.
I don't even know if we're live anymore. We've been dead for a while. Still says
Quick,
live.
It still says we're live. Okay.
They can hear.
Yeah, they're just talking about the price. Yes,
All right,
we can
cool.
hear. Right on. Cool. Thanks
Great,
a lot.
thank you guys.
And yeah, so anyway, these were about $1,000 a piece because I needed to be portable. I was a nomad for 3 years. I moved to Europe with this stuff just in my backpack and a duffel bag, and a one-way ticket to Slovenia. So that I needed everything to be as portable as possible. I'm going to meetups. I'm going to events. I honestly spend most of my effort doing the live streams beforehand in trying to find events and contact meetup organizers, people that don't have any kind of video coverage. They don't have money for it, so they don't even consider it. And I send them a message on meetup.com where I hear about these events in different ways through friends, and I end up contacting them and just say, hey, I'll do this for you. I just want to come to your event, and I want to make sure that it's archived. I want to make sure it's live streamed because I care about you people, and I just want to deliver it because I know that not everyone can be there. Not everyone can be at Paralelní
in Prague,
this amazing place, this killer venue with all of these beautiful, smart people getting wasted. I know we don't live stream that, but it is a lot of fun. You should come next year. And yeah, so that's what's up.
That's truly amazing. And people at home, they always have this kind of accusatory tone that you did the sound wrong on purpose, or you're not showing us the slides on purpose. And let me tell you, we're always trying to do the best for the audio, even when people are talking in the room, even when people are coming in and out, making the door squeak, and even when they're totally ignoring the incredibly booming, loud sound of my voice. But there's more to this than that, Ryan, because you said this was a $1,000 microphone, and yet I know people are complaining we've had to put it near their mouth, we've had all these issues. We still need an audio mixer on top of that. There's always one more piece of equipment to get. You think you're set, you've got a plug strip, a power cable, a network cable, a Wi-Fi, an extender, a router, a tripod, camera, memory cards.
I need a new tripod. This one's totally jacked, so every time I move the camera at all, it shakes, it jumps, it doesn't stay where I want it to be. So that's kind of the next thing on my list. And yeah, I got a new laptop, so I can actually they have Open Broadcast System, which is open source broadcasting software.
Right.
Really cool stuff. You can have multiple cameras, all going in through USB, through these Blackmagic devices. Just more shit I have to buy. And then I have to, then I had to get a new bag. And then I'm actually not packing very many clothes at all, so I end up wearing...
I got a new bag.
Yeah, that's fancy as hell, man.
Stylish. Don't you want a bag?
Those diamonds on there, though. Is there anything you can do about those? Can you trade them for a different logo?
Diamonds are forever.
Oh, that's sad. But yeah, so I end up taking more clothes out. I end up packing more equipment, and all that I'm packing now is equipment. You cross borders, and people are like, you have too many USB cables. We need to stop and search you.
That happened to me.
Happens.
Yeah, I definitely got searched coming into Germany, and the guy was like, "What's this USB cable? What's this USB cable? Is this a camera?" And then he was looking at my bubble wrap, popping the bubbles like I put something in it. I'm just trying to keep the camera safe, man. I spent money on that. I had a nice old camera. Took it to an event once. It got bumped around in my bag. I had a dead camera.
Yeah,
it happens just that quickly. Years worth of tools. Suddenly, it's a paperweight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really surprised I haven't actually broken any of my shit, but I don't know. There's no wood around here. Knock on some
metal here.
Steel.
Metal wood.
Knock on your fancy backdrop. That actually is wood.
That really worked out. Particle
like
board.
wood. Yeah, that's really
But
dope.
yeah, I feel you on the tripod too. I had this old tripod I bought that came free with a camera. I just kept using it for years and years and years, this old tripod. Then I ordered an Amazon Basics tripod, and it's actually pretty professional, and it rotates, it has a level, and I'm really psyched about it. Amazon Basics, surprised they had two different sets of tripods, and they're both really cheap because Amazon manufactures them God knows where, and they can ship them direct from their site. They don't have to do any extra retail work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like speaking of Amazon, that's another thing I've been meaning to do is to build my own website because I'm also a web developer.
Sure.
Currently working for Zcash as a web developer. I've built the first Ethereum websites. I should be able to make a website for myself, but never get around to it. Like, what's that saying? The plumber's pipes are always leaking. And I've always thought like, oh, I'll put an Amazon wish list on there, and then people can buy shit for me. I mean, it works
That'd
for
be
software
great.
and tech, and he's got some cool
but then,
shit.
then
there.
you'd be begging. You'd be begging
Oh, I
for
have
free
no problem with
microphones
that.
and all this. They put the guilt trip on you the minute you want to buy something to improve the live stream.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I have no problem with that. I just got to get around to it, and I'd rather be doing the work. I would rather be coming to these events. I'd rather be hanging out with you, making killer content all weekend long. And hopefully networking a little bit and finding some new events to do, some new venues, whatever's going on. Always staying active.
So where can people learn more about your work? And you mentioned you live stream other conferences. I think you've done open source, maybe Chaos Communication, a bunch of other European open source conferences, a lot of great information and knowledge that people can get from these long presentations. And again, they don't have to be there. They can just watch your stream. So where can they subscribe to you on YouTube?
Yeah, it's Adjyleak, ADJYLEAK. And Adji is not actually a word in the dictionary. It's in the thesaurus, though, so you can look that up. That's fun. And leak comes from Kurt Vonnegut, actually, because in Breakfast
fan.
of Champions, so you might know this, in Breakfast of Champions, the lead character, what's his name, Trout?
Kilgore Trout's all in a lot of the books, but
but he refers to mirrors as leaks into parallel universes.
I remember that.
And so what I consider my live streaming is I go to these conferences where there's really disruptive tech happening, decentralization, open source, the stuff that nobody's even thinking about. Very few people are talking about it, and it's definitely not being shared. So if you want to check out any of these events, I'll be live streaming the OpenWRT Summit in 2 weeks, I think, also in Prague.
What's OpenWRT?
OpenWRT is open source router firmware. And so instead of having this crap D-Link tech on software running on your router that's controlling all of your traffic, nobody knows what it's doing. It could be routing everything through who knows where. And it's full of security vulnerabilities that you can't patch, or as someone that works for the company has to patch it, or worse, Comcast wrote the software that's running your router.
Sure.
OpenWRT is open source software that you can install, replace the firmware on your router, and you can do much more powerful stuff with it. It's open source, so people can look for security vulnerabilities. They have a lot of developers looking at it. It's old. It's all over the place. And you can use it to create mesh networks, which Battle Mesh is another event that I've live streamed twice. Full day, full week, 24 hour. There's 24 videos, each about an hour long. So yeah, that's my thing. If you want to go to these events and you can't, if you find out about events and you want to tell me about them because you can't go, you can hit me up on Twitter, same name, Adjyleak. And I'm always just looking for shit to do, man.
All right, well, thanks so much, Ryan, for joining us, and thanks for helping us live stream Paralelní Polis. I'm going to say it wrong a dozen times.
Absolute pleasure.
And this is the Hacker Congress. It's still October 8th, 2017, and I think we're nearing the end of this live stream. We've cleared the room. They stacked up guest after guest after guest. I just keep taking them down. Of course, Tone already left with the sex therapist, so that's over. But we would like to offer you from our sponsor, CryptoHWWallet.com, your choice of a brown or a black
I'm going to go with the trend and go with the black.
Go with the black. They're always going with black. I still like the brown.
You keep that one then.
I've got one at home. I've got one in my bag, but I only have one Trezor. I'm not a rich man.
There's a question about my T-shirt on here.
All right.
That is Ross Ulbricht, freeross.org, and if you don't know, he created Silk Road, or he was accused of creating the Silk Road. He was, welcome on. He was arrested for creating the Silk Road and is now serving 2.5 life sentences for doing so. So freeross.org. Shout out to Lynn. Had to cover that.
Yeah, it's always worth mentioning Free Ross, and they are selling the Free Ross commemorative silver tokens here. They're made of silver, and they're 200 euros a piece. So if you want to send me a donation right now, I'll buy one, but otherwise it's too rich for my blood.
They are pretty.
But they are really nice. Ross on the front, Bitcoin, and the Paralelní Polis logo on the back. Great stuff, and it's always great to help Ross. And now we're joined by our sponsor, Joseph, CryptoHWWallet.com. I'd like to give you a brown one. No one else will take them off me. But I think they're much more beautiful and look much more like leather. In my mind is always brown. But then I guess I have a black leather jacket now, so I blew that out of the water. But look at my bag, also black. So again, but I want my wallet to be more findable. So Joseph, why don't you tell us more about CryptoHW Wallet and what people can buy there?
Yeah, for those of you, this is probably my third time coming on the show.
Third time?
Yeah, last
That just means we're being good to the sponsor, which that's
Thank
our
you
goal,
very much.
so.
We're really happy and privileged to sponsor WCN to this event in Prague, Czech Republic. This is absolutely my first time. This is the home of the Trezor origin.
Trezor, Slush, General Bytes, Bitcoin
Yes.
Pay. Want to thank all the sponsors for this conference. All local Czech companies, all Bitcoin companies, not a single ICO sponsor on the board. Shout out to Paralelní Polis and the HCPP for doing that. I know they had a choice of sponsors. Other people offered money, but they said, no, we want local companies. We want to promote the Czech Republic, and we want to promote our local people. So I think that's a great thing that they did.
Yes, for those of you, if you're a Bitcoin, you have a Bitcoin store or website, you're a reseller. We are also looking for resellers all over the world, except USA on the website. If you have a physical store, of course, you're more than welcome to get our merchandise at a wholesale discount price to redistribute, resell our product. We are looking for resellers all over the world. If you're interested, please get back or get in touch with us. We can be found on CryptoHW Wallet on Facebook and Twitter, as well as sales or support at CryptoHWWallet.com.
And another question from the audience, do you also sell your items on Amazon.com?
Yes, we do. We do sell that on Amazon.com, but we also sell it on our website. Obviously, we offer some perks on our website. Free T-shirt with any wallet purchase. Sometimes we give different gifts, and occasionally we have special promotional discount coupons on our website. Like this one, we have WCN 20 off, and ending today, which is the 8th, by 11:59 or midnight. If you still want to take advantage and purchase your leather wallet case, they come in both brown and black for Trezor only. We may have other promotion later on as the holiday coming on.
So
But stay
the
tuned.
discount codes for Trezor only, and we're focused on Trezor because they're a sponsor, they're local. We had their CEO and their founder on the show, so we're a little biased towards Trezor this weekend. But do you also have leather cases for other wallets?
Yes, we have them for Keep Key. We have them for Ledger Blue. Ledger Blue is it's almost, I think a leather case for Ledger Blue is a necessity. The reason I came up with this idea is when I first got my Ledger Blue, it's big, it's bulky, and then the corners are so sharp. When you hold it in your hands, it's not comfortable. If you hold it too tight, it's sharp. If you hold it too loose, you may drop it. It's a $300 wallet. So I said this thing needs a good case. So the idea of a leather case came to my mind. That's when I started exploring. I found a really good designer in New York. I worked with them to create the prototype. Took it back to the factory overseas. We went back and forth. We made a bunch of different models. And finally we came out and finalized the design for Trezor, Keep Key, and Ledger Blue. Those are all available in our stores as well as Amazon. Like I said, we're looking for resellers to come on board and make you profit and help us to resell these, help out the community, to everybody accessorize their wallets, protect their wallets. It's one of the best ways to do it.
And it's very important to own your own keys. We say this all the time, and people get confused. They have to print a paper wallet. They have to go through Tails Linux. They have to then load the wallet software. It's very difficult. I don't even know how you load Tails now that my computers don't seem to have CD-ROM drives anymore. That was my old go-to. And I'm going to sound like an infomercial here, but I want to talk again about the qualities of these. It's real leather. It smells like leather. You can scratch it. And then I know I've talked to you recently about this. You went through special measures to make sure it wasn't made in an unethical factory. You really worked on the packaging, so it's a luxury item, maybe a good gift for the Bitcoiner in your life. I'm sure a lot of wives and husbands are watching, and maybe you want to give someone a gift who has a Trezor. Maybe they have a damaged, messed up Trezor. But I think this is a really quality item, and I want you to be able to tell the people more about it while we're starting to end this live stream.
Yes, we really spent a lot of effort to make this feel as a quality, and it is a quality. Starting with the leather case itself, we picked absolutely premium leather. No, you will not find two identical Trezor leather cases with the same design or pattern because they're real leather. Because no two pieces of skin are probably the same. And then it comes with a really nice dust bag. We had the idea of how the luxury handbags are packaged. We packaged them the same way. Really extremely soft dust bag. It can be used like a microfiber to clean your screen on your wallet. Any of the wallet that has a screen, you can use this clean. And comes within also a nice message card. It'll explain basically the basic functionalities and the features of the leather case, as well as all our contact information with a QR code. An easy scan to find us once you have this. Obviously, the packaging is in a very high quality box, gift box. This makes it a perfect gift for almost any occasion. For those ladies out there, if you have a husband that owns wallets, if they don't know about this, make it a secret gift for their birthday, holiday, Christmas is coming up. They'll be very surprised because we put in a lot of effort making this, and all of you that get this, your hand in, when you actually see this, you will not be disappointed.
And people can spend Bitcoin on your website, you take credit cards, what kind of payment offerings?
We take PayPal, so PayPal, behind PayPal, all credit cards are accepted, and also we take cryptocurrency Bitcoin via BitPay. Those are all available on our website, but that's not available on the marketplace platforms.
All right, and we're almost out, but I think we'll have one more guest because he just walked in. Martin, why don't you come on down just for a minute? We had Martin on yesterday. Thank you, Joseph, and thank you, CryptoHWWallet.com. Everyone can check it out. And Martin's a big fan of these, actually. We gave him, you've seen that disaster of a Trezor with a scrape on it. We gave Martin a leather case yesterday. His Trezor looks so much nicer now. He was showing it to everybody at the conference. Really, like, sometimes you give somebody something, they just throw it in their bag, but Martin was a big fan of it.
I'm still a big fan. I'm still a big fan. It really, my Trezor, it's been beat up for years. Actually, they don't die that easily, but now it has, it didn't look like I had my pension on the Trezor, but now it literally looks like a manager's Trezor. Nice, fine leather finish.
Just like the Trezor looked like. It's got a screen in there and everything. Push the buttons. It's got little dimples for the buttons.
Really,
you can push the
well
buttons.
worth the investment. It's only like $30 or something.
Yeah, $29.99.
It's not even $30.
Now it's 20% off.
And it's you can make it a little bit more unique, just like be unique. Get yourself one.
So Martin's from General Bytes. They make the ATMs that we have here at Paralelní Polis. They have a huge screen and a neon light around them. You'll see them instantly if you go into a shop looking for a Bitcoin ATM. These things stand right out.
We love neon, and I think it's ATMs always look boring. So we thought, we add some neon to it,
And Martin's also responsible. He's working with my cryptographically owned proven bag that I picked up earlier today. I wanted to support Martin in his work.
So. Yeah, thank you. You can. It's Marilyn. She made the bags, but the thing was, everything like get copied. So we authenticate the bags on the blockchain. So this way, every one of them you can verify on the blockchain whether they are unique. It's still in development, but the idea is that instead of using blockchain as money, because we all use blockchain as a sort of Bitcoin as payment.
Sure.
We need more applications because we can't expect all those cryptocurrencies to like moon without having new applications. So we constantly keep developing new applications. Yeah.
So it's not so much ownership like I was saying earlier. I got one. It's more about verification of not being a fake. It's not a fake bag. This bag is authentically made by Marilyn. Has the Bitcoin, Litecoin, and diamond-shaped logos.
And Ethereum.
Whatever that is. I've heard about it. Yeah. We'll see. Good luck with that one, guys. Yeah, to the earth or whatever you say.
That's so funny.
But we also have Martin back on the show. Theo talked to him yesterday a little bit about the ATMs and some of Martin's other projects. But I just want to let you guys know in November of 2014, I was wearing my Mad Bitcoins hat and my goggles. I went on the air and I talked about this guy who had a Bitcoin chip implanted under his skin, and I was a little critical of it. I just said, because I was so worried that he's going to get an infection or something, and he'd be the first one and the last one with a Bitcoin chip implant. So, Martin, why don't you tell us about your Bitcoin chip implant? And
Well,
what
the idea is, I had this friend Amal Graafstra. He's got this website, dangerousthings.com, and he's like a biohacker. Before he created the implants, he created like magnets. If you implant a magnet and you implant it on your nerve endings, then you would like become the real Magneto, like X-Men, you know. So you can
But it's
feel
great power and great responsibility, and I'm still terrified.
Well, it's your
I
body.
don't even like it when they take my blood.
It's
so.
your own body, so for me, it's my own body, so I feel I can do with it whatever I want, And if the ethical thing, some people might not like it, but I was running a Bitcoin ATM network at the time, and actually I was storing many Bitcoins for third parties because some of the miners, they would adopt a ATM. They would fill it with Bitcoin, I would take my commission and they would get the money out. But it was my responsibility to keep the Bitcoin safe. So how am I going to keep the Bitcoin safe? And at first I would print out these paper wallets, with the QR codes, and I'd bring them to the bank, like a safe deposit box.
Sure.
But where we are going, Thomas, we don't need no banks. I mean, banks are so like yesterday's technology. So we needed like a different way to store the crypto, and I thought, okay, I can keep them at home and I can keep them in the wallet, paper wallet. But if I get burglared or stuff, it's not safe. So I thought, if I have a place,
a friend of mine used to keep all of his journals in a safe, which was really great until one day he was chasing a guy down the street who had his safe, and he was screaming, "All you have is my journals. There's nothing of value in there." And now my friend doesn't have his journals anymore. It's sad.
See, that's so. I thought, keeping the Bitcoin safe, I would be like, in a chip implant, and some people found it a bit extreme. Others thought, I was the devil itself.
And this is not a joke, people. He has a chip. I mean, if you see Martin around, he'll wiggle the chip at you. He loves to do it.
It's got one here and one here. This one is for Litecoin, and the other one is for Bitcoin. And I count the pressures every day in the morning. So when I got the chip implant, my colleagues at General Byte said, we had a few beers, because with a few beers you get the best ideas, is my opinion. All the great ideas come after a few beers. Yeah. So there's Martin, if you would be able to wave your hand at the ATM and get some cash out, wouldn't that be cool? I thought, hell yeah, just make it work. And so 2 weeks later they had like a prototype and with the NFC thing, and it did work. I was surprised. So and the only thing was that, okay, we can add NFC technology to the ATMs, but nobody else had the chip implants at the time. So we need, and people found it a bit freaky. Some of the people just don't like it. I understand that, not piercings are not for everyone.
Sure.
Tattoos, but I don't have any piercings or anything or ink, And so I thought, chip implant is the thing for me. So
and you've been saying over again, good enough for the cat, good enough for me.
Yeah,
You've been cracking me up.
Exactly. Thomas, that's the thing. My cat had a chip for 18 years, and the only thing it complained about was food. So never about the chip. So
no, never mentioned. Yeah. I even read the cat's diary. No problems.
Amal said, from Dangerous Things, not designed to be implanted into humans. I think his lawyer made him say that.
Yeah, of course.
So I got the chip implanted on a huge syringe. So I went to my home doctor and I said, you have to put the chip inside. And he just started laughing in my face. I said, why? Why are you laughing in my face? I'm the client here. You have to do this. I pay for the consult. I said, no, you get it wrong. I'm a doctor. I fix you up when I'm sick.
Sure.
When you're sick, but you're not sick, so get out of my office. So I was a bit angry with him. So I said, I'll go to a vet or somebody else, because I knew the vet would do it. And then he said, well, you will be back in my office. And that time, I will help you, meaning like probably a fact or something.
Yes.
But no, it didn't. And our bodies didn't change anything in the past thousands of years, while the world around us did change quite dramatically.
Sure.
So by making a little bit of a body upgrade, we can be more compatible with modern life. This is how I see it.
That's how people are going to sell this whole cypherpunk robot human future to us. Additional compatibility.
Upgrade your body. It's about time. So once we got it running on the ATMs, that was like cool, but there was like nobody that would like use the NFC feature. So we were like a bit stuck there.
Yeah.
So we created like an option that it would dispense cards. So because bank cards, you know, you're familiar, everybody's familiar with the bank cards. And it's not difficult to grasp. People know that if you have one of those cards, you have to be, careful with him.
Sure.
And the implants freaked people out, but the exact same technology we used to like just put in a card.
Do you ever get picked up when you get scanned through airports or anything like that?
No, that's the thing. If sometimes I read that in the newspaper, a Colombian lady arrested in Schiphol airport with 50,000 euros up her, private parts. And I sometimes think this is so old school, And you should just, get one of the chip implants. And it doesn't show up on any body scanners or anything. I never have any problems with those, stand still and body scanners.
I won't do those machines. I don't go like this for anybody. I get the personal massage. They rub me all over, and I just feel so great after I go through security. Getting my belt back and my shoes.
Thomas likes a special rub.
Yeah, it's great to have a little massage at the airport. So
it's so we added like sort of cards because it doesn't freak people out, but it's exactly the same technology, yeah.
And that's what they have here at the conference. Everyone was given a little card. Maybe they load a little Bitcoin or Litecoin on it, and they have all these payment machines here.
There you go.
And these payment machines accept the little card, so just wave your card over it. Don't show his private key. We just give all of Nin's beer money away. Can't do that. We have to save that for 5-10 minutes here.
The cards don't contain any name or name. They contain your private key. And of course, you can scan those private keys because the antenna on the cards is quite large. So we give it like nice little cardboard case. But if you look inside, it's got this like sort of like metallic finish. These are like nicely printed with the logo of the conference and the sponsors.
So it's kind of like a little Faraday cage, right?
Correct.
Keeping me from stealing everyone's card money, which I was talking about earlier. I could configure my phone and just go around wallet.
In Amsterdam, we make them from milk cartons. We are too cheap to actually go to the printer, so we just make it from milk cartons. And they're like practically free then,
So in addition to Bitcoin and Litecoin, you can also open doors, activate security systems, things like that?
I use it to snooze my alarm clock. That's the most valuable function, I think. In combination with Sleep as Android, there's like this app for Android. You have like CAPTCHAs to solve when you want to snooze your alarm. And one of them is Scan NFC chip. So I make my left and my right chip. And it's a bit of fiddling always, so by the time I got it right, I'm really wide awake. And I never slept late since I have the implant. So if you have trouble waking up in the morning,
sleeping, get a chip.
Get a chip.
I'll bet that's just how they thought Big Brother was going to be sold to us.
Thomas, I have the impression you're not taking me serious at all.
I believe you. I've seen the chip. I'm just still not going to get one.
Precious.
I have an Apple Watch. It's not charging lately. I have too many things to charge. But one of the best things about my Apple Watch is it unlocks my Mac when I'm close enough to it. And that's just such a convenient feature. It really feels like the future. I just go in, oh, you're here? Boom, time to work.
That's fantastic.
And you could do the same thing with your built-in chips. They called Martin Mr. Bitcoin, and I talked about him on the show all the way back in 2014. But I think we're about to end this show. There are no more guests. Tone is long gone with the sex therapist. No idea what's happening outside this room. Maybe some kind of polyamory or polygamy or some kind of thing.
Whatever floats your boat, Thomas. Whatever floats your boat.
Fine with me. Fine with me. But I think we're going to sign off here from the Hacker Congress at Paralelní Polis. I don't know how many hours of content we've done today, but this is the third day of live streaming, of videos, of presentations. And I think it's time for dinner. I don't know if Tone's going to try to come back later, but I think we're going to try to wrap up the room here, put everything back. Thanks again to our sponsor, Crypto HW1. I lost my microphone again, but I talk pretty loud. You can get your leather cases, your Trezors, Keep Key, Ledgers, all these things. They shook the camera. They're so excited. Thank you, audience, for noting. I saw it happen. But that's about it. And we'll be back. I don't know what time it is. Vortex is going to do his show around noon Pacific time. I don't know where I am or what time it is. But check that out right here on the World Crypto Network. Give us a thumbs up and a share. Help more people find the show. Subscribe if it's your first time. We do these every day. I'll be back tomorrow with the Today in Bitcoin show. I think Tone will probably be on an airplane. We'll try to patch him in as usual. Last time he was going to his seat and telling people about the charts, and everyone on the airplane got free information about Bitcoin. Cashing that in. Oh, it's a 9 and a 7 and a 3. Oh, it's great. So, but that's about it. We'll be back soon. Bye-bye.